future, talk radio will actually educate, inspire, and make you think. The future is now. Topics and music that affect your life from Universal Broadcasting Network. Tune in at ubnradio.com.
Hello and good evening, everyone, or depending on what time zone you're in, because we are global, we are international, and I want to take a moment to appreciate my international audience, people literally from all over the world, from Oman down in the Arabic nations, Africa, all the way to Europe, Spain, England, Canada, and it's so exciting for me to talk to people from all over the world because I feel like I'm traveling, but I get to sit in the luxury of my office and get to know people from all kinds of cultures and find out what is it that is hurting them, and of course offering a pathway to healing. So tonight's show is going to be a rather deep one. I have some pretty interesting psychoanalytic information. The topic is rewounding of narcissistic injuries and the fact that the herder cannot be the healer. And this is a call-in show, folks, so please do call in. I want to hear from you. 323-843-2826. So just a little bit about me, the Psychological Healing Center, and the mind map, which most of you are familiar with, but I will get into it to familiarize you with the mind map. As founder of the Psychological Healing Center, I created a pathway to healing, which is predicated on tracking childhood wounds, how we react to them, how we encode them, and how they take us down into a very, very bad pattern, which I call the WTF, or the what the Freud. And this is where we repeat things that we are blueprinted to repeat, and we repeat them, and we're going to get into why we're repeating these patterns in the course of today's episode. In essence, we're repeating patterns because we are attracted to the people who hurt us, or attracted to the people who represent people who hurt us. And with that said, I'm going to launch into the mind map so that you can see the process of healing. So if you look at the 9-panel mind map, you will see Wounds of Childhood in the upper left-hand corner. And these wounds include 5 major woundings of childhood: physical abuse, sexual abuse, verbal abuse. Then there is neglect and smothering. So these are the main forms of abuse. And when we are abused, we are disconnected from, and this disconnection creates a reaction to these wounds, which is experienced in the primitive brain. The amygdala is part of the primitive brain. And these reactions can range anywhere from shutting down to somatic reactions, to reactions of anxiety and depression and so on. And then as we develop cognitively, these wounds of childhood and reactions start encoding into horrible, terrible, negative core beliefs. I've done some episodes on negative core beliefs. Please listen to them. They are powerful and very enlightening, because if we don't dismantle our negative core beliefs like we are not good enough, that we're not lovable, that we don't even deserve to live in some cases, if we don't dismantle them, they will dismantle us and take us down into what I call the WTF zone, which is panels 4, 5, 6, chaos, which is all of the chaos of the wounds of childhood and the negative encoding, and then the defense mechanisms which we erect to protect ourselves from further woundings. And these defense mechanisms can get very intricate. So common ones might be smoking, drinking, porn, and on and on. And I think we have a caller, so I guess they hung up. Please call back and get on the couch with your emotional ouch. And I also want to make another announcement. We are going to be giving away a free PDF copy of my book, Be the Cause, Healing Human Disconnect, for everyone that makes an appointment for a free consultation. So if you get in touch with us at the Psychological Healing Center, and you can reach us through drjudywtf.com or psychologicalhealingcenter.com, please do reach out to us. Let us know who you would like to work with, whether it be me or one of the doctors or therapists on the team or life coach on the team, and we will get you that free consultation with that person so that you can learn more about how the mind map system applies to your healing, and then we will download a copy of Be the Cause, Healing Human Disconnect, which hopefully will open up in whatever part of the world you live in. So again, do call in. I know we had a caller and we lost that person. Please call back, 323-843-2826. So the point of the mind map is to, as Freud says, complete these psychological files so that we don't keep spinning around like a broken record in the WTF zone, the what the Freud zone. And as we begin to clear out the psychological wounds and bring closure to them and grieve, in many cases, the parents that we never had, as this process begins to find some peace and closure, we can then reboot the system into panels number 7, 8, and 9, which is the paradigm shift and the recoding and the unity and peace. So the mind map is, again, a system of healing, and rather than spending months and years in therapy, this is a very precise and organized way of going from your wounds of your past through the process of dismantling them and paradigm shifting into healing. So getting right into the topic, rewounding of narcissistic injuries. Hurters cannot be healers. So why do you think we are attracted to the hurter? Again and again, we seem to gravitate to people who recapitulate or repeat patterns of the past. So, for example, a woman might be attracted to an alcoholic, or a man might be attracted to a woman who is distant, or anyone who has a blueprint of some sort of a childhood injury will be attracted to similar people and literally draw them into their life and accept them into their life and play out the what I call the WTF, or the what the Freud. So I want to read you a little bit about this what the Freud phenomenon. This is an article by a very prominent MD. I think he's a psychiatrist. His name is Basil A. van der Kolk. And in his article, The Compulsion to Repeat the Trauma is the name of the article, and it's subtitled Reenactment, Re-Victimization, and Masochism. And certainly for the people who've been listening to my shows and for the people who've participated in the mind map system, you already know that we tend to reenact and we tend to re-victimize, and sometimes we tend to wound ourselves in the process of this what the Freud kind of behavior. So van der Kolk talks about how Freud thought that the aim of repetition was to gain mastery, But clinical experience has shown that this rarely happens. Instead of mastering the repetition and working through it, we find that we create further suffering. And so what the Freud is going on here? Please call in 323-843-2826. So a little bit more about this compulsion to repeat the trauma. Let's talk a little bit about behavioral reenactment. In behavioral reenactment of the trauma, the self may play the role of either the victim or the victimizer. So here is an interesting piece of the article, Harm to Others. Reenactment of victimization is a major cause of violence. Criminals have often been physically or sexually abused as children. Not surprising, is it? So if somebody's been abused, that's the blueprint. Let's go to panel 1 and see that injury of criminals is now being projected. So panel 1 wounds are being projected onto others. In a recent prospective study of 34 sexually abused boys, Burgess found a link with drug abuse, juvenile delinquency, and criminal behavior only a few years later. 14 juveniles condemned to death for murder have been brutally, physically abused. So let's bring in the big debate, the centuries-old debate of nature versus nurture. So again, what the Freud is going on here, are these people born violent, or is it that their background created this level of violence? So we could see that the blueprint is a very important part of why we then encode certain messages and break down into chaos and eventually implode into or explode into violence and other types of self-harm type behaviors. So let's talk about self-destructiveness. Self-destructive acts are common in abused children. Not surprising. Green found that 41% of his sample of abused children engage in headbanging, biting, burning, and cutting. So let me just talk about that because I see a lot of patients who are cutters, and part of the background of that abuse is that they have been severely wounded in the panel 1 area of their life. And so these self-destructive behaviors are ways of that individual taking the pain out of their system, because when the pain, emotional pain, gets so overwhelming, then the person might release the pain by cutting themselves and converting that emotional pain into physical pain. And then the buildup happens again, and then the cutting happens again. This can be true also for biting themselves or burning themselves. I remember there was a patient that I treated. Actually, she was on one of the shows. Her name was, I think it was Maria, and I don't remember the show, but she actually put her hand on the stove because she wanted to get attention. This was a result of the neglect. And because she was so neglected, she would rather have negative attention than no attention at all. So this is how powerful these childhood wounds are. So let's just get a little bit more information here about this. In a controlled double-blind study on traumatic antecedents of borderline personality disorder, which I know many of you are very interested in that topic, we found a highly significant relationship between childhood sexual abuse and various kinds of self-harm later in life, particularly cutting and self-starving. Again, not surprising. Clinical reports also consistently show that self-mutilators have childhood history of physical, sexual abuse, or even repeated surgery. I didn't know about that. I learned something every day. So again, I want to talk a little bit about the approach that I take, that my team takes to closing these psychological files, because in order to close these psychological files and make sure that we don't do a WTF, we must identify these childhood wounds so they become conscious, because part of the WTF is the acting out of unconscious impulses. And so when we shine the truth light on these unconscious aspects of ourselves, then we no longer have to act them out. So the process of the mind map therapy is designed to illuminate these wounds of childhood and the reactions that the baby self had to these wounds of childhood and how we encoded it. And so the encoding, just as a refresher course, because I did a whole episode on negative core beliefs, the encoding is a way that we interpret ourselves and the world around us. And I think we have a caller, so hello, get on the couch. Welcome.
Hello?
Yeah, hi. This is,
Hi.
What is your name, please?
My name is Blake.
Hi, Blake. Nice to meet you.
I've actually recovered a lot from a borderline personality disorder. I've taken dialectical behavior therapy on my seminar. So I think that the emotional abuse kids, a lot of them develop them. They can't control their emotions because they never learn how. Right?
Yes.
If you live in an alcoholic home, all you do is throw ashtrays at each other. And there's no communication.
Correct.
So yeah.
And where are you from? What state are you living in?
I'm actually from Toronto, Ontario.
Oh, very nice. I used to be your neighbor in Montreal, Canada, so I know how cold it must be getting there. Not snow. Is it or not yet?
Well, it's cool.
It's cool. Okay. So if you don't mind sharing a little bit, what is your experience with childhood wounds and the development of borderline personality disorder, which is an extreme dysregulation of the self, at the core, a fear of abandonment?
Yeah, that's basically when I was 3 years old. I told my mom I hated her, and I walked up and down the street for 2 hours with my suitcase until my dad came and got me. So,
okay.
But I had lots. There's lots of abuse. Yeah, it was made to help textbooks, and if you dropped them, they beat you with a rubber hose, stuff like that.
Okay. And so how did you internally experience the borderline personality aspect of yourself? And then the part two is, who did you attract in your life? What the Freud patterns did you repeat?
Okay. Well, I think I experienced a lot of confusion my whole life. When I grew up, I had a lazy eye. So I wasn't as mature or as advanced as the other kids.
Okay.
And so basically, I did a lot of art and stuff like that. But I just didn't. You feel like you just don't fit in. And then, of course, when I started drinking, and then I became an alcoholic. But I've almost got 5 years in. Next June will be 5 years.
That's fantastic.
So basically, I started
Congratulations.
drinking when I was 13.
Mm-hmm.
And I had, no, sorry.
No, I was just going to make a comment that drinking is a defense mechanism that is the best shot at filling the hole in the soul. So I have no doubt that you had a hole in the soul. You had extreme emotional pain. You didn't exactly know what to do with it. You didn't know who to go to. And so you did the best possible remedy for this and started self-medicating.
Yeah.
And how long did that go on for?
Well, I started drinking when I was 13, and I stopped drinking when I was 53. But I wasn't always drinking. Like I would have like 3 months or whatever, or 9 months of kind of almost when I was busy, like I was kind of functioning really good. But once I wasn't busy, I really didn't make out too good. And plus the same thing, I hired the same sort of people that jerked me around pretty good.
So yeah, that was
pattern.
Okay, tell me about the pattern. And I've been reading some statistics here and some research studies on abused children and how they then repeat these patterns in the here and now or in the course of a lifetime. So what kind of people did you choose into your life? And who were they? Bosses, wives, lovers, friends? Tell me a little bit more about that.
Well, basically, my grandmother told me not to hang around pool rooms. So I met a lot of people in pool rooms because they didn't fit in either. So that's where and then I met I drank in bars.
I didn't hear that. I didn't understand that. Your grandmother told you not to hang around people with what?
No, around pool rooms. Like I'm a billiard mechanic.
Rooms.
I work on pool tables.
Okay.
So when I went to the pool rooms, that's where a lot of misfits there, so you kind of fit in. And then I played a lot of bar pool. Like I didn't have to buy beer, so a lot of the people I hung around with were alcoholics. And then they would like not show up, and then I'd hire them again. My cousin, I kind of had a lot of trouble with him, but I would always like take him back, and it really didn't do much for me. But I was always like, you can't really do the job yourself. But that abandonment disorder definitely, I hung around people that I probably shouldn't have, but you just better hang around them than nobody.
So I wanna reiterate that what you were doing was a WTF. You were attracted to the herder, which represented people who were not well, people who abandoned you, people who hurt you in some way. And again, why do we do that? We do that not because we're stupid. We do that because we want to complete the emotional file. And you tell me, Blake, yes?
Yes, Blake, yeah.
Was there ever an instance where you attracted, quote, that wrong person, that WTF pattern, and made peace with it and completed the psychological file and graduated to a better emotional space?
Well, I stopped hiring the same sort of people, but because I basically said, when I stopped drinking, I said, if you don't show up or you don't call me, then I'll hire you the next day after never. So it was
okay.
that was after a long time. Like I was sober then. I just couldn't deal with it anymore. But I would sort of I had quite a few people that worked for me. So kind of like I would get someone to work, and I don't know. Sometimes we'd end up drinking more than working. But like I had a couple of people that I work with that were controlling, and
so
I wasn't really well then.
So here's the interesting thing: as you got better, your boundaries got better, okay? And as your boundaries got better, you started eliminating these people from your life. So in order to evolve psychologically, we have to do the work. And you also said that you did a lot of DBT, dialectical behavioral therapy, yes?
Yeah.
And through that, I'm imagining that you learned how to be more selective with the kind of people that you choose into your life. You learned these boundaries, and as a result of that, you started to evolve to better selection, correct?
Yes.
And how are you doing today with emotional regulation? How are you doing with that aspect of your life?
Well, I did a lot of Al-Anon too, because I live with an alcoholic. But
okay.
But now I would say like it was pretty crazy then. I could never make decisions, and like my thinking was always like my emotions were all over the place all the time,
Yes.
like all the time.
So,
But now that I've taken that, I made a couple of videos. It's actually one of them is 25 minutes long about my experience, strength, and hope. So I think, but I when I went to the first DBT course like 3 years ago, I couldn't even sit down and watch. Like we were talking about that after the course. I couldn't even sit down and concentrate and do anything.
I have no idea if you have a copy of my book, but I contact me and I'm going to send you a copy of the book, okay? The PDF version of that, all right? Because I really want you to start connecting the dots of what happened, who done it, why you're in the shape that you are in, and oftentimes when we don't think straight, when we have interference in concentration, it's because of childhood abuse. People may label it ADD or whatever they label it. I still have yet to find the genetic marker for ADD. Maybe there is one, I'm not aware of it, but for certain, when we are being emotionally abused, our cognition is affected. Okay, so does that make sense? You're not born naturally confused. If you're in a confusing environment, was your mother, tell me again, was your mother or father alcoholic?
Well, my mother has a borderline personality. Her father, I never met him, but my grand, he was. I'm for sure he had a borderline personality disorder, and so he would say to her, "You got dirty nails." Of course, now whenever when you're a kid, if you get dirty nails, that she would flip out on you, right? And a lot of nagging and everything.
So Blake, I'm gonna go on with some material, and I'm gonna send you this PDF. Just contact us at the Psychological Healing Center. Also, feel free to take advantage of a free consultation. And I'm gonna do a little bit of connecting the dots and weaving together more information as to why we do this WTF and end up in chaos, breakdowns, and defenses and breakdowns. Thank you so much for calling in, and please be in touch.
Yeah, I will. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Blake. Thank you. Okay. Yeah. All right, so everyone kind of beginning to connect the dots, a lot of chaos in his family, a lot of childhood injuries, being physically abused as well. I think he talked about being beaten with a hose, if I remember correctly. And so this is absolutely going to emotionally dysregulate a person. And because we so much want to heal, we will go back into these patterns, into these dynamics. We don't want to pick the nice guy or the nice girl. We don't want to pick that person because that person, there's no lack of closure there. I want to mention a study that was done years ago. I have mentioned it on other shows as well. This is a study done by Bluma Zygarnik, and the phenomenon that she termed it is called the Zygarnik effect. And I think it's a great experiment to show how lack of closure works. And this is what she did. She took a bunch of college students and she divided them in half, and she gave them a lot of nonsense tasks to finish. And with one group, she let them finish the tasks. With the other group, she interrupted them in their task performance and then invited the two groups back a month later to see who remembered the tasks. And guess who remembered the tasks? If you want to call in and say what you think, go for it, but I'll probably tell you the answer before the call comes in. So, who remembered the tasks are the people who did not complete the tasks. The people who completed the tasks were very done. They didn't need to hang on to anything in their mind. So that file was closed. That psychological file was closed. With the people who were interrupted, that task was yet to be done, and so they remembered what they have yet to do. And the same with our psychologic, because there are two types of logic. There's logic, 1 and 1 is 2, and regular logic, and then there's the logic of the psyche. And the logic of the psyche will seek out the incompletions and attract and invite unconsciously the people that we have unfinished business with. So I want to talk a little more about self-destruction. Self-destructive acts are common in abused children. 41% of these people, again, the self-mutilators and the headbangers. More primitive behavioral patterns originating in painful encounters with hostile caretakers during the first few years of life produce more symptomatology. And again, I really would like to hear from you. I love call-ins. Please do call in. And if you don't want to use your name, you can just make one up and we'll talk. Re-victimization is a consistent finding among abused people. Victims of rape are more likely to be raped, and women who were physically or sexually abused as children are more likely to be abused as adults. Victims of father-daughter incest were 4 times more likely than non-incest victims to be asked to pose for pornography. So let's connect the dots on that. That's a very interesting pattern right there. Victims of father-daughter incest, 4 times more likely than non-incest victims to be asked to pose for pornography. Well, I'm imagining that if we put the mind map up, this kind of sexual abuse takes down boundaries. So what happens is the person begins to believe that maybe they're not going to be wanted or not going to be lovable unless they expose their bodies to other people. And as a result, if you take a look at panel number 5, they create, I call them very permeable membranes. So it's sort of like when we've been violated, when we've been abused, we've been emotionally penetrated, emotionally raped in some cases. And as a result of that, we fall prey to people who do the same thing as our parents do. In my book, Be the Cause, Healing Human Disconnect, I talk about how parents set the bar. And when parents set the bar, they're usually setting a pretty low bar in the cases of these types of abuse. And so therefore we think that it's normal to be violated. It's normal to drink. It's normal to pose for porn. It's normal to be beaten. Well, we all know the answer to that. Re-experiencing after adult trauma. There are sporadic clinical reports on reenactment and re-victimization in traumatized adults. So 57% show behavioral reenactments and 51% have reoccurring intrusive images. So this is kind of like a PTSD. So when I talk about childhood wounds, I talk about them as they are the blueprint. And when I talk about re-traumatization, the re-traumatizations are the triggers. So the more secure a person is, the more properly and securely attached they are, the less likely they are to reenact childhood wounds, the less likely they are to experience PTSD, the less likely they are to engage in what I call the WTF. Dr. John Bowlby, who I refer to a lot, talks about secure attachment and different forms of attachment, and he talks about the ingredients for mental health, which boils down to what we see in nature: breastfeeding, eye contact, stay-at-home parenting, secure attachment between mother and father, or parental figures, so that there's a role model of security, there's a role model of pillars that support the family. And if we don't have that, foundationally we break down. So if we're not, quote, held in an environment of safety, then we don't have a safe core, a safe inner core. And then we seek out people who do not have safe cores also, or will play with our unsafe inner core and take advantage of that. So if you want to prevent these horrific what the Freuds and psychological injuries, the one simple thing that we as a human race can do is learn to, number one, clean our own childhood wounds so that we don't visit these childhood wounds upon the next generation, and number two, be parents that are there for our children. So if you're a parent or you're about to be a parent, then the best thing that you can give to your child is absolutely to be there for them. And again, everyone, this is a call-in show, so please do call in, 323-843-2826. And I'm going to go on with the essential secrets of repetition relationship patterns. And this is a great article by Stephen Diamond, PhD. And he talks about the phenomenon that psychotherapists deal with, which is a chronic pattern of dysfunctional relationships. The person's partners share consistent similarities such as physical and emotional abuse, unavailability, substance abuse, instability, narcissism, and so on. It's not like we're planning to pair with these people. It just is that unconsciously we're looking to heal our wound. But remember, the herder cannot be the healer. Again, what do I mean by that? I mean that we go back into the dynamics of where we came from, hoping that second time around will be a better, happier ending for us. And we have a call-in. So, hi, you are on the couch with Dr. Judy.
Hi.
Hi, what's your name?
My name is Dawn.
Hi, Dawn. Welcome to the show. And where are you from, Dawn?
I'm from Pennsylvania.
Thank you so much for calling in. And tell me a little bit about what prompted the phone call and what the Freud is going on in your life.
Well, I made a conscious decision to marry someone that was the complete opposite of my stepfather. And that worked out very well for me because he's a very steady, emotional person. He's there for me, and he's always, and he helps get me through a lot of the drama and the strange things that I still don't quite understand with my parents.
Was this after therapy, or you just made that conscious decision on your own?
No, it's just something when I was about 16, I just mentally said, one day, if ever I'm going to marry, it has to be different from what I see.
Brilliant. Brilliant. That's not always the case, is it? We've seen quite the opposite.
Right, and that's what, I'm listening to the show tonight. I thought, wow, I'm so relieved that I made this decision. However, the problem now is because I have a very normal, regular husband. Yeah. We've been married 25 years, and I have 2 kids. But it seems my parents, especially my dad, my stepdad, they have undermined him and belittled him, and my father especially, he has a lot of reasons to resent him, and it's really caused a lot of disruption in my life.
I'm not surprised because your husband, did not mirror your family dynamics. So in the eyes of your parents, in some sense, you betrayed the family, didn't you? You just didn't copycat them. And so by marrying somebody that was so different than your parents, you're in their mind, okay, in their cracked lens of perception mind, you're really rejecting, guess who?
Them.
Exactly. And they're not too happy about that. So what do? In the spirit of the narcissistic defense, they will demean, devalue, and destroy. I wanted to ask you a question about your initial spark with your husband, because a lot of times people will say, well, I fell in love with so-and-so and then it crashed and burned. Did you feel the in-love phenomenon when you met your husband?
No, it's funny you asked that because it was kind of quite the opposite. I met him when I was 16, and I was friends with his sister, and he would come and hang around with us, and he became interested in me from a young age, from 16, and pursued me for years, and I never felt that chemistry with him because he was, in my mind, I had my mom telling me, you need a man with big, strong arms to wrap around you, because that's who she was married to. A man with, he at one time was a bouncer, he was a tough guy. And I had an aunt that would tell me, you need to be married to an older man. That's what you need. And she was trying to set me up with this 34-year-old man at the time who was just divorced and had 3 kids, and I was 19.
Right.
Yeah. So she was married to an older man.
Okay.
Yeah.
They wanted you to be at the same level that they were at. Makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. And so gradually, it was a gradual thing with my husband. I didn't feel this initial, like when you get a crush on somebody and you feel this attraction. It wasn't like that. It was like he was my sound voice through all the weird.
I'm so glad that you're calling in and talking about that, because a lot of people will confuse that in love phenomenon with love. And you're talking about somebody who actually cares about you, that respects and admires you, that took the time to get to know you, versus this mad chemical rush of in love where it's almost like in many cases, it's almost like a signal that you've met what the Freud match, so to speak.
Yeah. It was the opposite of what you would expect.
Yes.
And then he was always there through lots of the crazy, the crisis, the drama. He was always there and saw it, so he knew me even at my worst, and he understood the way things were. I never was putting on an act or trying to be phony in front of him. And then one day I realized everyone around me was crazy, and he was the one person that just always made sense. And then when I was 21, I realized that I cared for him in a way that I wasn't admitting or I didn't want to realize. But I was young, and I said to him, at one point, I said, I'm 19 years old, and I can't be somebody's wife. I don't feel like I have my head together. But at 21, I realized he was the person I needed in my life. And then I said, let me put my makeup on. I'm going to go to the movies with him. It was like an opposite thing, Like I'd love to know the person as a human, and for his mind and for the respect that he showed to me. And then I thought, now I need to, I need to do my makeup, and I don't know. But anyway, we've been married 25 years. But the big thing is my heart breaks because recently, like 3 years ago, I was at my parents' house, and out of nowhere, my dad called us over, and he insulted my husband and berated him and told him all the reasons why he can't stand him. And it just shocked me. And and it's been 3 years since I've spoken to my dad. I mean, I speak to my mom a little bit, but and it's because of these feelings they have over my husband.
I'm so sorry, and this is, as I was mentioning earlier, it seems as though your father recognizes that your choice of a husband is so opposite to who he is that it's almost to him a slap in the face that you didn't choose somebody more like him. And so he took out his weaponry of narcissistic defenses and basically annihilated your husband. So like a decent human being, who did you choose to support?
My husband.
Of course.
Yeah.
And he was hoping that at that point he could put the kind of pressure on you that would end your marriage. But that didn't work, did it?
No.
And so,
but it hurts, you know?
Yes, of course.
Yeah. So I'm just at this point now where I'm not sure, what I should do. I mean, my sister was murdered some time ago, and we took her child. She had a 6-year-old daughter at the time, and we took care of her. I had no children. I was 27, and my husband was willing to take care of her. She was given a good home. Everybody loved her.
Yes.
And while we were raising her, Dr. Judy, I didn't realize it, but when she would go visit my parents, they would say stupid things like to undermine him, like, oh, he's cheap, and I'm going to buy you this, and he won't, and other things too. It was awful. So that's also another tangle.
And this is how this insidious betrayal works, because they send flying monkeys to do their bidding. And unfortunately, the flying monkey happened to be your sister's son, yes? And so he was literally the monkey in the middle, having this horrible task of being the destroyer of your relationship. But that didn't work either, did it?
No, it didn't. No. Well, no, because our relationship is strong. However, it did affect my relationship with it was my niece that we raised.
Oh, the niece. Okay.
Yeah. And she eventually rebelled as a teenager. She rebelled and caused us all kinds of stress. But she's trying to get her life together now, which I'm grateful for.
And who's she living with now?
She just got married about a year ago.
Okay.
She went off the deep end, though, and did all kinds of things. And she was just involved in all kinds of terrible things that broke our hearts. But she's trying to get her life together now. She's pregnant again. She has a son. She's got a cute little boy, and she's pregnant again.
Well, it is. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, and then that's another thing. So my mom, I have 2 other kids, and they're good kids. 16-year-old son, and I have a 14-year-old daughter, and they're normal, regular kids. And I feel my mom would like for me to watch her child, which really, in effect, he's really my great nephew.
Yeah.
I'm not a grandma.
Okay.
I'm like, I'm not ready for that yet. Not yet, because my daughter is, she's 14. But my mom would love to say, you're a grandma, just accept it, And she would love for me to watch my great nephew, to the point where I would end up not giving my other children the time that they need as teenagers.
Well, thank goodness you have a strong sense of self. Thank goodness you understand what they're doing and where your boundaries are. And you did, this is a fantastic example of a person who did the opposite of what the Freud. And as a result of that, you have had a wonderful marriage, you have a beautiful family, and also along with that, you have some major rebellion from the people who try to pattern you differently, but you just didn't go along with the deal, did you?
No, I didn't.
No.
Sometimes, though, I feel sad because I want so much the acceptance of my family, and I have my husband and my kids. I love them. But I feel sad sometimes because I don't understand why. Well, I do understand why, I suppose, but But I feel like, and my husband says, you're always looking. You keep looking for their approval. You know you're never going to
That's
get.
what this show's been about. Thank you. This is the essence of it. The herder can't be the healer. So you want to go back into this destructive system. You want to go back toward the people that did you emotional harm, and you want to win their love. You want to win their approval. It's just that it's never going to happen. And thank goodness you didn't repeat the pattern by selecting somebody else that would have treated you same, and then you would have been running around trying to win their love and approval, and that would not have been a happy ending at all. So the fact that you got logical, I don't know how you did it, but you got logical as opposed to psychological, with the emphasis on the psycho. You didn't do it that way, and you made a very, very mature and intelligent choice. So I just want to say to you that the fact that your parents, and particularly your father, is acting out is a testament to the fact that you chose so wisely, because had you not chosen wisely, he would have been applauding your poor choice, because it would have been reinforcing his horrible pathological piece of himself. So this is a multi-generational type of wounding. So when parents don't clean up their own stuff, when they don't take the time to heal their own childhood wounds, they will pass it to the next generation, and it'll keep going. And we could see that with your niece, and now she's got to work it out on her own. And some people are fortunate enough, like yourself, to make some really, really intelligent decisions. So I want to tell the audience that just because you have that spark of in love and that magical, oh my God, I can't keep away from this person, think logically also. Is this person replicating wounds from the past? Is this person going to be a repeat theme on abandonment or abuse, or a repeat theme on control? And we really, really have to get to know the person that we pair up with, whether it be a husband or a wife or a business partner or a friend or a boss. We really, really need to take the time to vet people. So I'm so glad that you got smart and that you you made this choice, and hopefully you will be a role model for other people who are listening to the show to think logically and wisely and be aware of the Freud, okay?
Yeah.
And please do contact me, because I want to give you a free PDF copy of the book. So just email me over at go to my website, psychologicalhealingcenter.com or drjudywtf.com, and take advantage of a free consultation, and which you just did with me, and you get the book.
I appreciate it.
Okay. And if you want to partake in the mind map therapy, you sound pretty healthy. If there's any cleanup to be left to any cleanup left to do, then contact me, contact the team, and we will help close any emotional files. And I think in particular in your case, I think you will be faced with grieving your parents and grieving the parents that you wished you had. So if you like, we can help you with that, okay?
Thank you so much, Dr. Judy.
You're
I appreciate
so
it.
welcome. My pleasure. Thank you for that great example of the opposite of the repetition principle. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Have a good night.
Okay, you do the same. We may have time for one other quick question if there's anyone else that would like to call in. And if not, I'm just going to say a couple of other pieces of information. I'm going to go back to an article there was a great article here that I outlined. I really, really liked it. It had to do with why would a person marry someone just like their father or mother if their parents were alcoholic and narcissistic? doesn't it make more sense to look for a partner with the opposite traits? This is an article by Why Do We Repeat the Past in Our Relationships by Christine Langley-Obach. This is an insightful question, a most confusing psychological phenomenon called repetition compulsion. Why we repeat the past. In repetition compulsion, a person repeats a traumatic event, and that's why we go back into it. We want to close the emotional files. Remember the Zeigarnik effect? We want to finish the business. So we go back into the traumatic event or the circumstances over and over again. While no hard and fast answer exists, many theories offer explanations as to why just leave is not an option. We can't just leave because then we feel incomplete, unfinished business. So I'm going to take the last few minutes to shrink a tune. And of course, the tune has to do with unfinished business and somebody who desires a person that has left. And this is a song called What It Takes by Aerosmith, one of my favorite groups. There goes my old girlfriend. There's another diamond ring. I guess he's been through this before. And all those late night promises, I guess they just don't mean a thing. So this person obviously is still pining after someone who doesn't think much of him. So baby, what's the story? Did you find another man? Is it easy to sleep in the bed that we made? When you don't look back, I guess the feelings start to fade away. I used to feel your fire, but now it's cold inside. And you're back on the street like you didn't miss a beat. So here's a man literally just scratching at this person, even psychologically scratching at this person of, why'd you leave me? Why'd you leave me? And literally this person is ripping open his childhood wounds and core beliefs, maybe core beliefs like he's not good enough or he'll never be man enough. Tell me what it takes to let you go. Tell me how the pain's supposed to go. Tell me how it is that you can sleep in the night without thinking you've lost everything. So he wants to be of value, but she's not valuing him. And so he wants to make the pain go away, but he can't because she's never going to give him closure. Remember, the herder can't be the healer, and he keeps calling in the herder. Girl, before I met you, I was fine, but your love made me a prisoner. Yay, my heart's been doing time. So there's the psychological prison of being trapped in this horrific, what the Freud. You spent me up like money, then you hung me out to dry. It was easy to keep all your lies in disguise because you had me in deep with the devil in your eyes. So this person, literally, he's describing how he got vampired and how he got sucked dry. Tell me what it takes to let you go. Tell me how the pain's supposed to go, how it is that you can sleep. Tell me that you're happy that you're on your own. Yeah, he wants to hear that she is on her own, but probably not. Tell me that you miss my touch. This person is long gone. She's being touched by someone else. Tell me that you are dying when you're crying for me. Tell me what it takes to let you go. So he's trapped. Without thinking you've lost everything that was good in your life to the toss of the dice, tell me who's to blame for thinking twice. No, because I just don't want to burn in paradise. So here's the contrast, burn in paradise. He wants this tainted, toxic love. Why? Because if you understood his panel 1 wounds, you would understand that he probably had a template or a blueprint of rejection and some sort of an incomplete file that manifested as a desire to seek a person out that was similar, like the family of origin, and now he is trapped in his own psychological prison, and he just can't seem to let go, and she will never help to close the psychological file. So don't ask the herder to be your healer. Move away and get some healing through some psychological healing so that you don't have to go through this what the Freud and be stuck. So for those of you who want a free PDF copy of the book, please call in and take advantage of a free consultation, and we'll be happy to give you one. I hope to see everyone next week. Have a wonderful evening. Good night, everybody.